You're listening to Focus Black Oklahoma. I'm executive producer Bracken Clark, and this is a special podcast edition of our show, featuring the entirety of our three-part series, Blacks and Cannabis. The first segment we'll hear is from episode 6, which first aired in June of 2021. FBO's Juddie Williams explores the inequities of Oklahoma's growing cannabis industry.
The issue of cannabis use in the U.S. has been controversial for several decades. Opponents condemn it as a danger to people and society, while advocates defend its proven health benefits. At the state level, the issue of cannabis use has evolved. Currently, cannabis for medical use is legal in 36 states. One liberal estimate is that there are 7,000 cannabis dispensaries nationwide. According to canaclusive.com, there are over 600 reported Black-owned dispensaries across the country. Oklahoma became the 30th state to legalize cannabis for medicinal use when voters approved State Question 788 in 2018. Since then, the Oklahoma cannabis business has grown into a multi-million-dollar industry regulated by the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority, known as OMMA. In 2020, Oklahoma was noted as being second in the nation for the most dispensaries per capita. Similar to trends from other states that have legalized some form of cannabis use, Oklahoma struggles with racial disparities in this industry. According to OMMA's website, there are currently over 2,200 dispensaries in Oklahoma. According to canaclusive.com, less than 2% of those are Black-owned. The American Civil Liberties Union in 2020 reported that Black people are 4 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis in Oklahoma. Ebony Farashu is a Tulsa author, legal cannabis user, and a brand ambassador for the Women in Weed Group, an organization that seeks to destigmatize cannabis use and specifically empower women cannabis users. She recalls how she felt when she found out State Question 788 was passed.
Then they legalized it. And I found myself on the 4th of July, around the 4th of July, sitting around waiting a few years ago for them to tally the votes when we voted on it. And I was like, oh my God, they voted yes. And everybody who thought I was a good girl was like, why is she so happy? Why is she so elated that they're legalizing marijuana? Because I knew that it was something that would help me.
Ebony explains how cannabis has benefited her health.
And I realized there were different strains of marijuana. There were different types of marijuana. You have indica, you have sativa. And I realized that when I used the indica, it relaxed me. And it relaxed my entire body. And all the pain that I had in my body slowly fade. I have arthritis in my knees. I've had knee surgery on both knees. I have high blood pressure. I have hemiplegic migraines.
She went on to describe the debilitating effects of hemiplegic migraines that sometimes led to hospitalization, and says with indica, she has been able to prevent serious migraines. It also helps with anxiety.
I have racing thoughts all the time. I have a lot of anxiety. When I use my gummy, that's they're serenading us. When I use my gummy, those racing thoughts sometimes, they're silenced, and I'm able to sleep.
When asked about the stigma of cannabis in the Black community, Ebony discussed common stereotypes and perceptions.
I haven't really felt a huge stigma on marijuana in the Black community. People on the outside, other races, Caucasians, looking into the Black community and seeing somebody smoking weed or eating gummies and things like that, even though that's stuff they kids are doing all the time, when we do it, we're criminals.
She noted that getting her OMMA card was an easy process and believes the biggest challenge is overcoming one's own reservations. When asked about how she feels about her personal safety and security, Ebony replied,
I think that we just need to help people, and so I don't feel like it's going to affect my security, and I don't feel like it's going to affect the way I live or the way I do things. It hasn't. If anything, hell, it made me a little calmer.
She reflects on the racial dynamics, but is skeptical about these inequities being remedied.
And I do see a few Black dispensary owners, and I'm really proud that they're able to do that. But the ratio is crazy. And I would love to see a brother or a sister get out of jail for marijuana and get those charges dismissed and then open a dispensary. But that's not going to happen. It's going to be hard because people are going to see, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Yes. And then they're going to discount them just because of that.
Ebony relates her personal experience when talking to others about cannabis use.
I just tell people what it's done for me. And I don't try to convince people. If that's not what you want to do, don't do that. But this is what works for me.
Ebony was optimistic when asked about the future of Black people in the cannabis industry.
I think that in the future, because our young kids are brilliant. Our youth are, oh my God, they're so inclusive and they're so smart and they're so business savvy. I think that we're going to see more Black-owned dispensaries. And I think they're going to offer just as much, if not more. And I would love to see just more outreach into the community.
For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Juddie Williams in Tulsa.
That concludes the first segment in our series, Blacks and Cannabis. Coming up next is the second in our series, first aired on episode 7 in July of 2021. In the next segment, we hear the experiences of a North Tulsa-based dispensary owner who opened his doors during the pandemic, and a community activist who never wanted that to happen. Juddie Williams continues with her exploration of Blacks and Cannabis.
As we continue to explore cannabis in Black Oklahoma, we listen to the perspectives of a cannabis dispensary owner and a community activist located about 10 blocks from each other in North Tulsa. Dion Berryhill is the owner of the Golden Circle Dispensary. Before opening his dispensary, Dion had worked in Texas oil fields and the real estate industry. Dion decided to use his knowledge and experience in real estate and join the booming cannabis industry here in Oklahoma, opening his dispensary in North Tulsa in 2020. Dion describes going through the challenges and successes of opening his dispensary during the height of COVID-19.
It took me all of 2020 when I started trying to get this established, and that was when it was COVID crazy out here. It was a lot of stuff on hold, a lot of hold up with getting the license with MMA, and that's a whole nother story. There was still a lot of hurdles, a lot of stuff I had to do, and a lot of setbacks. Losses too, because I'm thinking that I'm ready to open, but then here comes something else you need to get. Some other entity that regulates something that I have to do. I took losses as well, but we finally made it, and it wasn't just a total bad experience, but it was definitely time consuming. My dispensary is in the heart of North Tulsa, which is the Black community. I'm just blessed and thankful to be able to have a business right there in my community, right there where I grew up, and being able to supply people with good quality organic medicine.
Dion explains the medicinal benefits of cannabis for his customers.
Marijuana use from a dispensary owner, it's been, these are patients. These are patients coming in here. People coming here every day for hip pain, arthritis, joint pain, seizures, migraines, numerous things. And because of cannabis being legal, they are able to use this to treat these illnesses and these problems and stuff with their health naturally, organically.
He describes how his dispensary is helping his community.
It's numerous dispensaries in our community. They all have 3 to 4 different bud tenders, so we're offering jobs. And I would think we're eliminating crime and stuff as well, because this is legal, and it's helping out because, like I said, this is medicine. So now people come and get their medication and really help their health issues without having to do stuff on the street and meet somebody at the corner or outside late night. It just makes it people can come get their medicine that really helps them in a safe environment. And then as far as the tax dollars that are being generated from this medical marijuana are doing amazing things. amazing things, making our whole city, our whole state great because of the taxes being generated from this. So overall, I mean, it's all positive. I don't see no negative.
When asked about issues of security, Dion admitted nearby dispensaries had experienced break-ins, but that he has security measures in place to keep his facility and staff safe. Regarding the low number of Black-owned dispensaries, Dion believes community unity, business savvy, and an entrepreneurial spirit can help narrow the gap.
Staying ready so you don't got to get ready. So when doors open up, the opportunities present themselves, have the right tools, and be in a financial place to be able to take advantage of these opportunities.
Tracy Chandler is a retired teacher who has worked for several years as a community advocate and activist. Currently, she is president of the Phoenix Development Council, a neighborhood association centrally located in North Tulsa that is working to bring entrepreneurial and economic development to 36th Street North. As we discussed the issue of cannabis dispensaries in her community, Ms. Chandler recalls attending a workshop years ago and learning about how legal medicinal cannabis significantly reduced the number of seizures in a young patient.
So I understand the medical reasoning and need for it. As a matter of fact, a member of my church came and asked me, what did I think about it? And I shared the same story. And I said, well, if you have a problem, then you should petition that it become legal.
She goes on to explain her issue with cannabis dispensaries in her community.
The challenge that I have with that, especially in my own community in North Tulsa, is that we have, in my opinion, way too many dispensaries. I would venture to say within a 2 to 3 mile radius, we have about 10. So what's the problem with that? Those spots reduce the spaces that could be used for other things that we need in the community. We don't have a grocery store. We don't even have a restaurant. There's no place to buy any shoes, no place to buy any clothing, no place for entertainment. So I truly believe that there should be regulation as to how many can be within a community. And in our community, we were fighting against a dispensary coming to 36th Street North and Lansing Place. That would have been a better spot for something that would be more beneficial for the community, because just a block away, we already had a dispensary. And there were those who were of the misguided opinion that you can't tell somebody what to do with their property. Well, I beg to differ. That's what the zoning laws are for. And that's what they had come before us with a request to change the zoning laws. So about 1,500 of us that were against the dispensary, but everybody that made the decision voted to change the zoning. So I have a problem with that.
Ms. Chandler does not believe that Black dispensaries and growers should be put out of the market, but that the focus should be on building up the area.
The city should look at what is going on. What does that community have? What does that community need? And look at it from a practical standpoint and not just about dollars and cents. We should be able to get our needs met within our community.
For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Juddie Williams in Tulsa.
That concludes the second segment in our series, Blacks and Cannabis. Up next is the third and final segment in our series, which first aired on episode 9 in September of 2021. In this segment, Juddie Williams helps clear the air about working in the cannabis industry.
In the final installment of our Cannabis in Black Oklahoma series, we speak with two different cannabis industry insiders. First, we meet Paul Wynn, cannabis entrepreneur, Paul shares with us his story and some of the often unseen facets of the industry, as well as what he thinks cannabis will ultimately become in society. At one of his properties in Tulsa, Paul sat down and gave us a behind-the-scenes peek at a few aspects of the business. First, he shares how he got started in the cannabis industry.
Basically, my main business that I do is real estate investing. So that's what I've done for like 20 years. What happened was one of my childhood friends had called me and asked me if I could find him a place to rent for a indoor grow. I basically just kind of approached him and asked him if he wanted to do it together.
After a year of planning, Paul and his business partner opened their grow facility in Northeast Oklahoma. Paul goes on to explain the moving parts of this industry.
A grower's life it's very different. Like they spend like countless hours just really watching the plants, just looking and making sure that they're all getting what they need. With that being automated, there's always a risk of clogged lines, or there's little things that are out of the grower's control. Like the master grower, that's what he's getting paid to do, is not the actual work as far as trimming and foliation and all of the planting and potting and transferring, all that kind of stuff. They always have like an assistant that does all that.
Paul talked about the importance of regulation and how there's even a person whose job it is to make sure they stay in compliance.
There is people that their main job is to, foliate, and that's all they do. And then there's trimmers that come in and all they do is to trim the bud. And then there's processors and packagers, the product. And then there's the sales team too, so then the sales together. It's a lot more involved than just growing a plant as far as the business goes. There's a lot to it.
Cannabis is a versatile plant. There are varying levels of product quality, and that determines what ends up in the finished product. This can be a tedious and laborious process.
It's not easy just to make the product, to grow it. I mean, a lot of people feel like, oh man, it's just simple to grow, and it's not like growing a rose, The growing part, everybody thinks it's all glamorous and stuff because you grow marijuana, but it's nothing like that. It's down and dirty and gritty like farming. I mean, so you got to think of it like that, but people don't associate that. They always associate being a grower something, oh man, that's so cool. It's so much work.
Jasmine Harvey is a cannabis educator, artist, photographer, and operations manager for Oklahoma-based cannabis lifestyle magazine and TV channel Herbage. Jasmine grew up around cannabis, but it was still considered taboo. A turning point came when she discovered the healing effects on her mental health.
I've already battled with a lot of depression, anxiety from losing my father, losing my grandmother, losing a lot of people that was very close to me, and then just navigating life with being bullied all through elementary school, being bullied all through middle school. I had a lot of mental health issues that were not addressed, just for the simple fact it's in the Black community, and you buck up and you just carry on. You don't sit there and you're like, hey, I might need some help with my mental state. And I was like, that's unheard of. Like, we're strong individuals. We don't do that.
Jasmine discusses destigmatization and education in her own family and community.
My mother has her med card now, and I've been able to push her in that direction of breaking that stigma so she knows exactly how it works medicinally with your body and everything. And she's like, my daughter told me. It's because I'm sitting here and I'm here to educate. We educate, then we medicate. But if you don't want to medicate, I'm going to educate you still, A lot of it, of course, within the Black community, it has been highlighted as the crutch for the Black community. It's been that stigma since, and it's breaking away from that. But you also have to be within your own community, within your Black community. You have to be like, hey, we want to be seen as better than what we have been portrayed. So that's us going in the forefront and giving everyone that education. Instead of just sitting there like, oh, I smoke weed, it's like, no, go out there and educate your people.
Harvey is the operations manager of Herbage Magazine, a cannabis lifestyle magazine that covers everything that is embodied with cannabis.
From My brand alone, my J. Harvey Portrait Studio, I am a photographer, but I'm also a cannabis photographer. So I get to see a lot of the products I'll shoot, or the flower in which they are being grown at, the facility in which it's being grown at. I'll be able to have the insight of going in the back, and it's like, oh, so that's how you produce our flower. So on that front, I have a lot of insight from that. I've worked in dispensaries, so I know what's in the back end of things. I see all of the brands out there and seeing what they offer and how they offer it to the patients, and how they are also actively breaking that stigma and giving that patient education. We also follow a lot of patient journeys, again, and that's where it's at. It's like getting to the heart of the patients, listening and presenting those stories in a beautiful manner. We're here to give that platform for those who do not have it, especially when there is Facebook, Instagram, all of that adds a lot of censorship. We're here to be uncensored. I am trying to curate more so of getting our voices out there within Herbage magazine as well.
Jasmine is energized by the positive changes she sees in the industry.
I'm excited about how the industry is evolving, because it's not evolving for the worse, it's evolving for the better. You know, we're 3 years young, guys. Like, we have our hiccups. Of course, there are a lot of legalities in there that are a lot of hiccups, but we also are very strong. Again, it passed because of the community. 788 passed because of the community. So we know what we want, and we go for it, and we try to go for it in a legitimized manner to make sure that we're good, and again, we're cutting out all that negativity that surrounds cannabis.
Jasmine gave these parting reflections about her work.
Anytime you're in the forefront in the cannabis community, no matter what you're doing, you are the face of cannabis. And when you come into the industry and you're like nose holds barge, just out there in a negative manner, is going to negatively reflect the whole industry. So do it in love and light, guys.
For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Juddie Williams in Tulsa.
Focus Black Oklahoma is produced in partnership with KOSU Radio, Tulsa Artist Fellowship, and Tri-City Collective. Additional support is provided by the George Kaiser Family Foundation and the Commemoration Fund. Our theme music is by Moffett Music. Focus Black Oklahoma's executive producers are Quresh Ali Lantana and Bracken Clark. Our associate producers are Smriti Iyengar and Jesse Ulrich. You can visit us online at kosu.org or tricitycollective.com/Focus Black Oklahoma, and on YouTube at Tri-City Collective. You can follow us on Instagram at Focus Black OK. You can hear Focus Black Oklahoma on demand for free at kosu.org, NPR One, NPR.org, or wherever you get your podcasts.